Hi everyone, today I want to speak a little more directly about trend scans. I've referenced it in past videos like the breakout scan videos I mentioned about downtrends. And so I want to speak a little bit more directly to that because there are, one, trends are really important in finding the up and down swings in a particular cycle. But also it's really a solid building block for other types of scans. So I'm going to refresh a couple, maybe one, and then I'll talk to you about a couple new scans. So really quickly, I actually want to show you the other side of the downtrend, which is the uptrend, and this is going to help you find a short-term uptrend scan. So to do this, you're going to open up a second line. We're going to have type as stock, and we're going to type in, last time we typed in downtrend, now we're going to type in uptrend is true, and this is going to be just for a short term. So let's go ahead and run that scan. And when we do run it, we can look at one example. Let's look at A, and you can see that it's been in an uptrend for a short amount of time. It looks like it dipped just a little bit, but here's an example of a short-term uptrend. Overall, it has been, relatively, trending upwards since about the end of, last year around this time. It's been on a constant uptrend with its little dips. Let's look at one more. Let's look at Apple. All right. And when we look at Apple, we can see once again a slight uptrend, right? Once again, it's generally moving in an upward direction. It did dip in September, but it continues to climb, and that's just the trend of the market in this case. So let's go back now to our workbench, and I'm going to show you another one that we looked at in the past, but we did it in combination with other scans. So I want to be very clear about it, and this one is the stocks in a long-term downtrend. So this one, you're looking at the average directional index, which doesn't measure whether it's moving up or down, but it measures the strength of a trend, and we're going to combine that with the directional index. Plus directional index means it's moving upward in an uptrend. A minus directional index means that it's moving in a downtrend. Last time we only used the plus and minus, so this time we're going to use both. So to do that, we're going to first code for the ADX, or the average directional index, to see the strength. And to do that, we're going to want to see the minimum. We're looking at this over 20 days, so we want to see that the minimum over 20 days using the ADX line, right? And the standard for that is 14. We want to see that it's greater than 25. 25 means that it's a strong trend, a relatively strong trend. The higher the number, I believe it goes up to 100, the higher the strength of the trend. All right, and so let's make sure we close out the parentheses. And now we want to look at the direction, right? So to do that, we also want to look at the maximum and minimum, but we're going to be looking at the maximum over 20 days of the positive, the plus DI, right? And we want to see a downtrend. So if we want to see a downtrend, we're going to make sure that the plus is less than the minus. If we want to see an uptrend, we want the minus to be less than the plus. So here we're going to do less than. We want the minus. I don't see it. Sometimes it will do it for you. But in this case, we want to look at the min. That's why. Min and minus are, first three letters are the same. So we want to see the minimum over 20 days of the minus DI over the 14. Okay, so make sure I'm not forgetting a comma. And let's go ahead and run this scan. Sometimes it takes a minute. All right, and let's look at an example. So let's look at a genus, right? And as you can see, this has a long-term downtrend. And we can confirm that by looking here on the ADX, and this black line is the strength. So the strength is above 25, which means this is a strong trend that went downward. And if we see that the red line is above the green line. So that's the minus line greater than the plus line, right? So let's look at one more example. Let's look at APT. Once again, we see a long-term downtrend. Confirmed here. This one, it's 31 is the strength, almost 32, and the minus is greater than the plus. All right, so that is to find a long-term downtrend. We've used that in the past, but I wanted to be very distinct with it. Now, the last one, which is a new one that I want to show you all, is looking at the previous month's highs to find trend. So to do that, we're going to look at the monthly high, and we want to see that the monthly high is, by default, monthly high is going to be today's month, but we want to see that the monthly high is better than last month's high. Last month's high, and then we don't want to stop there. We want to do it again, and we want to see that last month's high is greater than 2 months ago for the high, right? And you can keep going back, but we'll do it for just these 2 months, and let's run this scan, and you'll see there's a bunch of results. So let's maybe look at just the US, and country is US. So let's go ahead and run that again. It might just bring it down a little bit. See, it didn't even make all that much of a difference. So let's sort this out so we don't get penny stocks, and let's look at an example. So let's look at AMP. So this one has a pretty good uptrend, as you can see, but let's look at each month. So April, here we are. If we look at March, the peak was probably around here, and it's definitely better this month than it was last month. February is doing better. I mean, March is doing better than February, and even though we didn't code for the other months, we can see. And for obvious reasons, right? We were last year around this time hitting, the full brunt of a pandemic, so it's recovering. Each stock is recovering. So, but you can find that the general trend, this kind of gives you a prediction of the future. Even though we can't predict the future, this is a good indicator that it's going to continue to move in an upward direction. And this actually is a dividend stock. So if you're interested in, having that passive income, this is a stock you might want to consider. So that's a little bit about the trends scans that I wanted to share. Let me know what your thoughts are. Hope this was helpful. Take care, everyone.